This is Shinobi Bench. Today I would like to talk about 3 set structures that cause stagnation in the bench press. Even if you practice the bench press desperately, your max weight may not increase easily. Or despite working hard, you might find yourself stuck in a plateau. I think this is a problem that many people who work hard on the bench press experience. Of course, I have also experienced it myself, and to be honest, I am currently stuck at 162.5 kilograms. There are several reasons why your bench press weight does not increase, but one of them is how you organize your sets. If you put together your sets in a way that makes it hard to increase weight, that becomes a cause of stagnation. But many people do not realize this and keep struggling without knowing the reason. So today, I'm going to talk about the 3 common set structures that cause stagnation and their solutions. In this video, I will cover 3 set structures that cause stagnation. The most important matters regarding organizing sets. Recommended ways to organize sets. On this channel, I post many videos about how to get stronger at the bench press. So if you are interested, please come visit my channel. If you think this might be useful, I would appreciate it if you subscribed. So now let us look at the 3 common set structures of people whose weights are not going up. What I will talk about today is based on feedback I have had from about 500 people whose programs I create. Also, the set structures I will introduce today are not long. In some cases, people can still make progress with them, but my opinion is that they are not recommended. So let us get started. The first set structure of people who are stuck is only doing low rep sets. For example, organizing sets as 3 reps 5 sets or 5 reps 5 sets. Low rep sets are effective for improving strength and the nervous system, but especially for beginners and intermediates, only doing low rep sets makes it difficult to increase weight. Low rep sets are suitable for strength improvement but not very effective for hypertrophy or muscular endurance. Why? Because it is hard to accumulate training volume. Currently, one of the most effective elements for hypertrophy is total training volume. So whether you can accumulate volume or not is an important indicator when organizing sets. For example, 90 kilograms 3 reps 5 sets equal 1350 kilograms total volume. 70 kilograms 10 reps 5 sets equal 3500 kilograms total volume. That is about 2.5 times more. To achieve the same total volume as the 10 rep sets with 3 rep sets, you would need 13 sets. If you can manage 3 reps 13 sets in terms of time and stamina, that is fine. But in that case, doing 10 reps 10 sets would take about the same amount of time. So in terms of accumulating larger total volume, higher rep sets are more advantageous than low rep sets. Also, high rep sets like 10 reps can improve muscular endurance. In general, people say muscular endurance is not necessary for hypertrophy, but I do not think so. Improving muscular endurance allows you to perform more reps and sets, which ultimately leads to hypertrophy. And muscle hypertrophy strength improves in proportion to cross-sectional area. So eventually, you can increase your max weight. Also, by performing more reps, you increase your practice with the bench press itself, which makes you better at the lift. In other words, doing high rep sets give you 3 benefits in one. Of course, this does not mean low rep sets are unnecessary. You still need strength and nervous system training. I think this strength or nervous system work is best done with a top single, the heaviest set of the day for 1 rep. So the flow should be warm up, top single, working sets. That way you strengthen your nervous system and strength while ensuring enough total volume. This method has been around for a long time. It is nothing special, but many people still do not follow it, since it is a fundamental way of organizing sets. If you have been stuck focusing only on low rep sets, it might be a good idea to go back to the basics. The second set structure of people who are stuck is always doing near failure reps every session. On social media, you often hear that training is only effective if you go to failure. But in reality, always doing near failure reps increase fatigue and injury risk. Also, when going to failure, people often grind flare their elbows to create asymmetry breaking form. Repeating these kinds of sets make bad form stick. In other words, you pick up bad habits. I call this negative repetition practice. I talked about it before in my video. Bench press stagnation, the cause is repetition practice, the set structure that solves it. To prevent this, it is important to train with moderate loads. That said, I do not recommend using RPE based set structures that were trendy a while ago. LPE is useful for advanced lifters, but I do not think beginners and intermediates need it. Why? The biggest reason is they cannot measure LPE accurately. LPE is usually expressed as a number from 5 to 10. So it is a way of quantifying perceived exertion to keep training intensity appropriate. But in the end, LPE is just a feeling. No matter how much you refine it, it remains a subjective method. Especially for beginners and intermediates, perception changes drastically day by day. That is because their form is not stable and condition heavily affects form quality. Advanced lifters can account for this with their experience and technique, making LPE more accurate. But beginners and intermediates often feel like, somehow today I feel off. Sometimes their sets feel heavy at first, but then lighter by the fourth set. This often means their form was not properly set up during warm-ups. So be careful. If you try to use LPE in this state, not only does LPE fluctuate day to day, but even within a single session, reps become inconsistent and it all just becomes confusing. So what should you do? Take the weight you fail with, drop about 10 kilograms and train there. If you succeed, next time increase by 2.5 kilograms. When you fail again, drop 10 kilograms and repeat. By doing this, in the not pushing to failure phase, you can focus on form. In the pushing phase, you can train to increase your limit. Both phases are important and neither is superior. The debate of training to failure versus not training to failure is fun to read online. But honestly, no other sport has such an extreme debate. It may not sound exciting, but the truth is both are important. No sport improves with an all-or-nothing mindset. You might think that if you do not always train to failure, you will not grow. But remember, the most important factor for hypertrophy is training volume. So do not worry. This is different for super advanced lifters who have already maxed out hypertrophy and output. They might need that extra push. But 99% of people are not there. Beginners and intermediates especially do not need to mimic that. It is risky. By cycling between failure weight and failure weight minus 10 kilograms, you naturally alternate between form-focused and intensity-focused phases. This helps prevent form breakdown while still letting you push occasionally. The biggest enemy of this method is boredom, so it is important to understand the concept and give meaning to the practice. As I have said before, in sets are not strength training. If you approach sets as form practice, it becomes easier to overcome boredom. The third set structure of people who are stuck is changing set contents based on mood. This one is more common than you would expect. Before training, what should I do today? Okay, today I will do 5 reps, 5 sets. Next time maybe 8 sets of 3. What is wrong with this? The program is, it is not planned training. As I will explain next, the most important factor in training is the principle of progressive overload. This principle says you must gradually increase load. If you change your training based on mood, it is hard to satisfy this principle. From the perspective of progressive overload, if you change workouts every day, it is difficult to track whether load is gradually increasing. If you meticulously record and manage it, maybe it is possible. But honestly, it is very hard. Now, if you are following a system based on non-linear periodization with planned block adjustments, it can be valid. But most people are not managing it that way. This progress management is very important. It is crucial to regularly review your program objectively to check if load is increasing. So what should you do? Stick to a set structure for a certain period. In other words, make rules for your sets. For example, if you clear 5 sets of 10 reps at 2.5 kilograms next time. If you fail, reduce the weight and build up gradually, or follow a preset program for 8 weeks. Whether it is the best method or not does not matter. The key is to train with consistency inside a system of rules. Without that, you cannot figure out why your weights went up. You cannot find reproducibility. And reproducibility is absolutely crucial for long-term progress. This is the foundation of why principles like progressive overload and periodization are so important. To put it simply, why is it important to gradually increase load? Because over time, people discovered that gradually increasing load is what allowed most lifters to get stronger. In other words, reproducibility was discovered. That is why it became a principle. The same goes for periodization. So finding reproducibility is extremely important. Back to the main point. With unplanned training, when you look back, it is very difficult to find reproducibility. Why? Because your purpose and progression are not clear. That is why you do not make progress. I put huge emphasis on reproducibility, not only in set structure but also in form. So to find reproducibility, you must do planned training. As I have explained so far, the three common set structures that cause stagnation share a common program. They do not include progressive overload or periodization. Only low rep sets ignores periodization and progressive volume increases. Always training to failure ignores both principles. Mood-based training ignores both principles. I have repeated this many times in my videos. So if you watch often, you might think here we go again. But please think of it as a review. When you can explain these principles to someone else with example, that is when you have truly absorbed them. So first, progressive overload. This means increasing load little by little, so your body adapts and training effect maximizes. It is extremely important, and it is a principle I value most. Load includes weight, reps, set, rest time, and time under tension. All of these can be adjusted. So even if weight or reps feel low, what matters is steadily progressing with your planned sets. If you push to failure all the time and the load does not increase, that is not progressive. Next, periodization. This means dividing training into phases with planned changes to weight and reps. There are two main types: linear periodization and non-linear periodization. Linear periodization. You increase weight and reduce reps over a set period. Example: Week 1, 80 kilograms, 10 reps, 5 sets. Week 2, 85 kilograms, 8 reps, 5 sets. Week 3, 90 kilograms, 5 reps, 5 sets. This is what I recommend. Non-linear periodization. You do not decide weight, reps, and sets for each session. Non-linear can work in some cases, but basically it is only for advanced lifters. It is hard to manage and difficult to ensure reproducibility, so I do not recommend it. So far, I have explained 3 set structures that cause stagnation and 2 key training principles. So what set structure do I recommend? I recommend the 10-net-5 program, because it excludes the 3 stagnation structures and includes both key principles. The 10-net-5 program. This program starts with 10 reps 5 sets, then 8 reps 5 sets, and finally 5 reps 5 sets. Here is how it works. Find the weight, you can just barely do 10 reps 5 sets. Start 10 kilograms lighter than that. Alternatively, the 10-net-5 program starting weight calculator that I created. By entering your max weight, you can calculate the starting weight for the program. Example: if you can barely manage 75 kilograms 10 reps 5 sets, start with 65 kilograms 10 reps 5 sets. If you succeed, next session at 2.5 kilograms and do 67.5 kilograms 10 reps 5 sets. Keep going until you fail. For example, if at 72.5 kilograms you can only do 8 reps in the last set, the next session do 72.5 kilograms 8 reps 5 sets. If successful, at 2.5 kilograms again. At this stage, the weight may feel light. That is fine, focus on form. You can also use tempo benching here to control load, such as lowering for 3 seconds, pausing 1 second, and pressing up for 2 seconds. Eventually, you will fail the 8 rep sets too. For example, at 77.5 kilograms, the last 2 sets only reach 5 reps. At that point, next session do 77.5 kilograms, 5 reps, 5 sets. Again, this may feel easier, but that is okay. Form is a priority. Eventually, you will fail 5 reps, 5 sets too. For example, at 85 kilograms, 5 reps, 5 sets, you only get 4 reps in the last set. The next session test your rep max at 85 kilograms. If you can do 7 reps, your estimated 1 RM is 99 kilograms. If you can do 8 reps, it is 102 kilograms. So you are close to 100 kilograms 1 RM. This flow from 10 reps to 8 reps to 5 reps is 1 cycle. Once 1 cycle is completed, we take the 10 rep set max from that cycle and subtract 10 kilograms to determine the starting weight for the next cycle. For example, in this case, the starting point would be 60 kilograms 10 reps 5 sets. Alternatively, you can use the 10-net-5 program calculator available on my website. By entering your max weight, it will automatically calculate the starting weight for you, so feel free to use that as well. Or if you prefer more margin, you can restart at the same weight as the last cycle. Either way is fine. I will make a detailed video on the 10-net-5 program later, so subscribe to the channel and wait for it. Summary: the 3 set structures that cause stagnation are only low rep sets, always training to failure, changing sets based on mood. Solution: include high rep sets, Cycle between failure and minus 10 kilograms weights. Do planned training. The two key principles: progressive overload, periodization, and my recommended set structure, the 1085 program. That is it for today. If you found this video helpful, or if you would like to support me, please like the video and subscribe. Let us keep working on the bench press together. See you next time.